Hello everybody, my name is Nate Ball and this will be my first video on my YouTube channel. On this channel I'm going to be talking about Chelsea in general, usually about post-match reviews, maybe predicted lineups before the game, and also like transfer rumors, crises happening at the club, stuff like that. But today I'm going to be talking about the Brighton and versus Chelsea game that happened in the FA Cup pretty recently. And in a couple words, or a few words, the game was so uninspiring. There was no sense of urgency, no energy. It seemed like the whole football club, the managers, the staff, the players just did not care for this competition whatsoever, which is a travesty because this was our really last competitive cup that we had. We got kicked out of the Carabao Cup. We're in the European Conference League, but that's just not competitive, not for Chelsea. And it's horrible in the manner that we got sent out of this cup. No energy, no sense of urgency. It just seemed like we didn't want to win. Now, moving on, I'm going to recap the game as best as I can. I don't remember much because it was such a boring game. But we came out of the game pretty good, which the first 10 minutes is the best 10 minutes of the whole game that it looked like for us. We came out making a lot of chances. I remember Neto out-turning Lamptey to play in Sancho. Who then looked like he was about to be free on goal and get a shot off maybe for a goal, but then he has bad touch, has to lay it off to Palmer, who gets a good shot off. It's a corner. We created a lot of good chances, and not soon after that, Sancho puts in a great through ball over the top of the defensive line, Brighton defensive line, into Palmer, who then decides to hit it first time, which it was 100% across. It was not a shot. Anybody saying that it was a shot, it was not a shot. He was trying to cross it, and we got lucky. Goalkeeper fumbles the ball, and it goes in the back of his net off his head. So we got a little bit lucky there. But for the rest of the half, it was just, all of the passing was so pedestrian. We just kept passing it back through the back line. It didn't seem like we were trying to play through the channels at all, other than a couple times where we played over the top. We just kept swinging it horizontally, but we never tried playing vertically, and that is just something you cannot do when you're playing against Brighton, or they're going to just control the midfield. Now, not soon after our first goal, like 6 minutes later, I think it was the 11th minute, one of the Brighton players, Welbeck, so it is interesting because Chalobah, he's kind of completely at fault for this goal, I gotta say, because his first header is supposed to be a clearance out of the box, but it's not that good of a header, and then it falls onto the edge of the 18-yard box to Welbeck, who then lays it off to another Brighton player, crosses in. Jorginho Rudder's on the end of that ball, which Chalobah should have been there marking tighter or just getting to the ball. The ball didn't have that much arch on it. I think he could have jumped up and got it, but at the end of the day, Rudder scores a header. And for once, it's nice knowing that Sanchez wasn't at fault for this goal. So that was nice. Who I do want to say, I'll get into it later with all these players, but Sanchez didn't piss me off this game, which is great. But after that goal in the 11th minute, everything started going downhill. It seemed like there was just no... I'm going to keep repeating this. There was no energy other than from a few players like Caicedo, Cucurella, and really that's just about it. Maybe Malo Gusto, he was storming up that right flank sometimes. But yeah, it was just uneventful, boring. Nobody really had many other chances. But we come out of the second half, and Brighton really come out swinging. They do a really high press against us. We can barely get out of our own half. I feel like it took us 10 minutes to get out of our own half with possession, it felt like. It was horrible, but Brighton, I don't really blame us that much because their press was very relentless and it was very hard to get out of it. I think Enzo Maresca should have switched some stuff as soon as he saw that, but it's okay because in the 57th minute, he finally decides to put on Enzo Fernandez for Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who I thought had a very bad game. Maybe not a very bad game, but I just can't remember one good performance he's had for Chelsea, and it just seems like it's 40 million down the drain at this point. I don't know why we signed him. Yes, Enzo Maresca liked him last season when he had him at Leicester, but he's just not good enough for Chelsea Football Club, and that's a fact. I really do think that. But when Enzo Fernandez gets subbed on, I think it's the 57th minute. It might be the 59th. I don't know. Doesn't matter. When it does, Brighton score soon after, and this is a lot of Chelsea fans are going to be upset at this goal. It's very controversial. There was a couple handballs in this build-up. So, yeah, Lamptey gets the ball. He goes for a shot, and after the shot, the deflection hits his hand. And I'm fine with them not calling that. It wasn't purposeful. It wasn't intentional. And I think it was Tosnardo Bayo that tried to clear, and he could have cleared it, and he just didn't. It just went like 10 yards outside, or like 5 yards outside the box. So then they recollect. It's a great through ball to Matoma, which this one I'm not sure if the ref got it right. Now, there's no VAR in the FA Cup, or at least in this round. So you can't blame VAR in this one, and the ref decides to not call handball. But what happens is they put the through ball over the top, and Matoma hits it with, people are saying his armpit, but I don't think it was his armpit. I think it was his shoulder. And if it hits the shoulder, like it looked like it was more upper arm more than anything. And if he doesn't raise his arm, then he's not going to control that ball, so which he can get a shot off the left flank. So, and honestly, I think that goal should have been disallowed, but there's no VAR, and the ref has to stick with this call. So it wasn't that obvious. We get past it, and I can't be blaming this game on the referee. It was completely up to us. We could have came back. It was in the 57th minute. We should have came back. But for the rest of the half, I mean, Brighton just kept doing the same stuff. They just kept frustrating us, whether it was they were pressing us high or they put in a low block, whatever they wanted to do. It was just frustrating us, and we couldn't get anything done. Both wingers Sancho and Neto were basically locked up the entire game, and then we bring on Madueke and Tyreek George, who were locked up the entire game. I mean, I remember Tyreek George having one good chance from a through ball from I want to say Enzo Fernandez put in a great through ball to Tyreek George, but even that came to nothing. I mean, our wingers just need to be more productive, especially since we're getting, in the first half, we got Neto the ball so much, but he just didn't seem to do anything with it other than that one chance he got in like the 4th minute or something like that when he played it into Sancho. But other than that, yeah, the game ends 2-1. That's it. There was no fight at the end. You couldn't. There was one chance. There was chance, and I think in the 83rd or 84th minute, where it was one of the center backs, Tosnardo Bayo or Chalobah, that puts a through ball over the top to Nkunku. He's wide open. We've had a couple of those chances this game too, where we're not doing any tiki-taka. We're just going to send over the top because there's space there, and we get to it. And instead, I thought Nkunku should have shot it first time. I know he's not left-footed, but just get a shot off, because that's what can happen if you don't take a shot. He tries passing it to Palmer. It's way over his head, and he can't get a shot on goal, and then that's just another wasted chance, which would have been one of the best chances in that game. So yeah, game ends 2-1, so uninspiring. It's just hard to watch those type of games where we just don't look like we have any chance of coming back, or we don't have any, or our team doesn't have any motivation to come back. But now I'm going to move on to player performances. This is going to be very negative, as you can guess. There were a few good performances. I would say Caicedo, but when does Moises Caicedo actually have a bad game for Chelsea Football Club? I haven't seen it yet, other than his debut. So yeah, Caicedo, great game. He was very good getting out of pressure, which we've seen before. He can dribble out of pressure when a guy's on his back or a couple guys are sandwiching him, whatever. When there's pressure on him, he did well getting out of that pressure. And then he also, obviously, he is so good with his defensive prowess, his tackling, his interceptions. He covers so much of that field for us. It's the only reason why Brighton didn't completely control the midfield in this game, even though I think they did it for most of the game. But then also Cucurella, I think he had an all right game. He didn't really have much to do. He didn't get the ball much, but he was marking well, and he always has a great recovery, has a great fast recovery that we need, especially when you're inverting him. He needs to get back. And then I would say that I think Palmer had an average game. I wasn't too happy with Cole Palmer's performance, but that's okay because he's our icon. He's our star boy. That's all there is to it. And I do want to say that every single winger in this game was just not horrible, but needs to be so much better if they're going to be starting for Chelsea Football Club. Madueke, he was subbed on, couldn't do much. He was quiet, didn't see much. Tyreek George, same thing as Madueke, didn't get the ball much. They were just subbed in to do something, and they didn't make anything. So I don't blame as much on them, but Pedro Neto and, oh gosh, who's the other winger? Pedro Neto and Sancho, they need to be doing more. Sancho had a couple good moments. Neto had a couple good moments, especially with some crosses. But other than that, they need to be doing more. And I both really like those players too. I expect them to do more. I especially didn't expect Pedro Neto to be locked up by Lamptey. I know he's an agile guy, but So is Pedro Neto, and you got to be getting the better of him, whether that's getting a cross in because a lot of them were blocked, or getting past him by the line, or cutting inside and getting a shot off. But he was locked up the entire game. So moving on from that, yeah. And then the other good performance I want to say, Tosin Adarabioyo, he really is having another like a come up at Chelsea here. He was good at Fulham, but he didn't start at Chelsea too well. But now he's having like solid, consistent, good performances, and I've been happy for him. He didn't have the best match in the world. He allowed 2 goals, but he wasn't. I don't think he was at fault for really many of the errors that we had in our defensive back line. Chalobah, I've loved. I wanted to keep him in the starting lineup, but it was his fault on the first goal. I do have to say that. He should have sent it farther away or out for a corner if he can't get that, if he can't clear it with his head, which he couldn't. And then he also messed up by not getting the header that was from the cross that was sent into Rudder. But we moved past that. Chalobah is still a great player for us, and I'm so glad the ownership brought him back. Now, as I said, the goalkeeper, Sanchez, he had an average game. I don't remember him making any big saves, but also no big errors, which is huge for us. No big errors that lead to goals. Thank you, Sanchez. Doesn't matter anyways. We got the loss. He could have done better, but no big errors. That's the big outcome out of this. So, and really, we're not going to be seeing much of Sanchez anymore, so it really doesn't matter because he's only going to be playing in cup games, which won't happen anymore because we're not in any cups. But lastly, we did play Nkunku up top as our number 9. I wasn't inspired whatsoever by this choice. We didn't have any options. Mark Guiu seems like to be out for the rest of the season now. As soon as the transfer window closes, when we were all calling for a second striker, and then Nicholas Jackson picks up a knock before the game as well, and we can't play him either. So we have to play Nkunku up there. Maybe we could play Cole Palmer as a false 9. But we did that with Nkunku instead, it seemed. Maybe he wasn't a false 9, but it did seem like that to me. He was really pushing back into the midfield and trying to just get the ball there. Cole Palmer had to do the same thing and come back. It's like a defensive playmaker. Like, he was really with the back line for the most part, and Brighton would love that. Every team loves that. When you push Cole Palmer, if the only place that Cole Palmer can get the ball is near our defensive back line or in our own half, then that's exactly where you want him, not anywhere near the goal. So kudos to Brighton. But yeah, Nkunku, it's really sad about him because I think the ownership did a good job buying him, especially for the fee that we got him for, like 60 million, which is, I thought should have been way more for Nkunku. But as soon as Cole Palmer kind of established himself as our starting 10, there was no chance for Nkunku because I don't want him on the wing and we don't want him up top. So there's just no place for him. He did the best he could. Obviously, we know he doesn't have the defensive work ethic or that press that Nicholas Jackson has that we were missing that game, but that's not the main reason. He just was uninspiring. Didn't do much in that game. Pretty quiet. Didn't do much. Bad game from him. And then Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. He's had, I feel like, a couple good games before this game, which made me think a little bit differently about him. But after this game, I don't know why we signed him. If we're playing 2 holding mids and Cole Palmer in the 10, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall is never going to get into there. And I guess one thing I did like about that is Enzo Maresca finally stopped playing him on the right wing or right back or wherever. He just loves to keep Kieran Dewsbury-Hall stuck on that right flank. I don't understand. But he's now playing in the middle. He made a couple good tackles, but it's just his decision-making for me wasn't, I just don't think it's with Chelsea Football Club. There are a couple times he just punted up in the air because he didn't know what to do with it. And I'm not okay with that. You should know how to get out of pressure. You should know to at least pass it back or just do something with it other than just kick it up into the air. It's not kickball. We're trying to get a goal. Yeah, that's all I have for this video. If anybody's watching, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the support. Drop a like, subscribe if you like this video. I'll be coming out with more videos very soon. And thanks for watching.